The information provided on Dr. Tom Roselle Live by Dr. Tom Roselle, D.C., interview guests, show co-hosts, or substitute hosts is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. It is for general information purposes only. Information from this broadcast should not replace the appropriate consultation and examination process by a licensed physician. Always consult your own physician prior to changing any current medical directive or prescription.
Hey everybody, welcome to Ageless Health with yours truly, Dr. Tom Roselle. And we have an interesting program that we want to continue from what we were talking about a little while ago on our radio program on WMAL 105.9 FM in the greater Washington area. So here's the deal. There's a problem in society. We're losing our minds in a lot of different ways, but nevertheless, we're losing our minds, meaning we're forgetting things. We're not as sharp as we used to be. And I'm not just talking about people that, put on the ears, like, catching up to me. I'm talking about people who are very young, and that we're talking about the impact that stress has on dementia, but it's multidimensional. And we're going to try to get into that a little bit in more detail than we did in the first part of the program on the radio. So here's the deal. You get to a place where your cognitive appreciation is not as quick and as sharp as it was, roll the clock back 10 months ago, a year ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. And you go to the doc and said, well, we're going to see how it pans out over time, but you're starting to show signs of, of cognitive impairment or dementia. Now, those things can happen for a lot of different reasons. But one of the primary situations that's overlooked, that nobody can really put their finger on and say, hey, listen, this is the deal, is simply this. It's called stress. And stress comes at us from a lot of different elements, but emotional stress, biochemical stress, and putting up with pain for a long period of time. How many of you live with chronic pain and you're popping all kinds of painkillers, NSAIDs, and things that are much heavier than that? Stop and think about it. How many of you drink on a regular basis? How many of you are doing social drugs on a regular basis? How many of you are in environments that are very, very stressful? And not just because there's stress comes with everything, but because you don't have the tools, if you will, to handle that stress pattern. We're all subject to that. But I want to get into this and show you, number one, what the problems are, how they come about, but more importantly, what you can do about it. And we're going to have a program that's going to be coming up very, very rapidly now, very quickly, at the Roselle Center for Healing in Fairfax. It's going to be on the 22nd of October, 6 p.m. And Dr. Jerry Coward and I are going to get into the intimacies of what happens with adrenal stress, but this will be one of the topics that we're going to touch upon. I'm going to definitely dig into it. I'm going to show you some of the beginning stages that you can identify very quickly before it gets to the place and say, I forgot where my keys are. Now, not everything is Alzheimer's, but they can develop very rapidly. So let's talk about it just a little bit and really begin to take the lid off of this. When you are exhausted all the time, for whatever reason, it's one of the most common symptoms of dementia, believe it or not. When you can't get your act together, when you don't seem to have the want to anymore, when you do everything that you possibly can, you think, and unfortunately, the result is the same. You don't have that energy, but you can't think anymore either. And you say, well, I must be getting older. This is what happens, when we get older. Now, the common causes of low energy in older people with dementia is not always what we're talking about, because we have to look at things like B12 problems and iron absorption and neurotransmitters that need to have a really good gut intestinal tract. Now, this will be part of what we're going to talk about, and particularly on the 22nd, but here's the deal. Let's talk about the early onset, how to recognize adrenal fatigue, and as it relates to the problem with dementia. And it's, some of us just kind of don't pay attention to things, right? So here's the deal. If you go into a room and you're thinking about something that you want to get out of that room, but you get to that room and another thought takes over your mind, and you forgot for a moment, a second, a nanosecond, that what was I doing here? Why did I get up out of my chair to go over into the room? That's an indicator. Even if it happens on an occasional basis, it shouldn't be there. That's not one of the things that is normal. Now, there's a lot of us that, you go into my office at the house, you can see my office here, and I've got 10,000 things going on at one time. Fortunately, I've got a staff sometimes that reminds me, but if I had to do it on my own because of the crazy things I stack one on top of the other, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, are there barriers to memory that are subtle, insidious, and applicable over a period of time, and we're ignoring them? We'll say, well, it's just aging. I'm not as good and sharp as I used to be. So when we have a dementia pattern, when we start seeing the slow, insidious onset of what's the problem, right? So here's the deal. Does dementia cause fatigue, or does fatigue cause dementia? Well, I'm here to tell you that it can go either way, but generally it's the stress patterns that go back and forth. Yes, dementia can lead to significant fatigue. So that's a biochemical neurogenic dementia. That's your Alzheimer's. Those are the things that we're starting to see shift and changes in the biochemical patterns. The disrupted sleep patterns, as you start seeing, the emotional stress that affects your daily life. We have to understand it and be able to compartmentalize. I'm going to show you some of those things today, and then I'm going to give you some clues on what can be done about it. So let's first understand dementia as it relates to fatigue, which relates to stress, which relates to that adrenal system that we've talked about now for the last couple of weeks, not working the way it's supposed to. So dementia or dementia fatigue can lead to significant, if you will, progressive patterns over a period of time. And it can include Alzheimer's, as we said before. The fatigue can manifest itself in just low energy. I don't have to get up and go, the want to do as I used to do. And some of it is on us. It's kind of shame on us type of thing. There's too many people out there to decide that they're going to retire. And they're going to retire, and I ask them often, you're retired to what? What are you going to retire to? And they look at me and say, what do you mean? I said, well, what are you going to do when you retire? What's going to take over that mental stimulation that you've been doing with your work, regardless of what it is? You could be somebody who handles a checkout counter at any of the stores. But if you're good at it, your brain's working constantly. You're compartmentalizing things, you're moving forward, and then all of a sudden that's gone. It's like a muscle. If you're not exercising that muscle on a regular basis, that muscle is not going to work the way it's supposed to. It's not going to react the way it's supposed to. When I played ball in college back in the day, as my grandchildren would tell you, when the dinosaurs ruled the earth, but here's the deal. I was much fitter than I am now, if I want to use that type of thing. My condition level was huge. I had body fat level that was stupid low. It was like in the neighborhood of 9% body fat, and I weighed a whole lot more than I weigh today. But my body reacted quickly. My body was quick and sharp. Over the years, I don't do those things. I still work out. I still do energetic workouts, and I get on the floor in the morning and I do my thing, but I'm not there. So do I have a muscular decline? No, I have a muscle that's not being trained. And could I get it back under certain situations? It's been proven now repetitively. As we get older, we can maintain that quality, but we have to pay attention to it. Same thing with the brain. If the brain is not challenged, if you're not doing things that really can stimulate one interest, but also the desire to learn, there are connections within the brain now that get slow. I'll use it in that terminology. They get slow, they don't connect as quickly, and so forth. That's number one. Number two is simply this. Are you polluting your body with all kinds of garbage, if you want to use that terminology? And What is it that, that you substitute? Do you grab a candy bar? We've talked about, a soda. Do you have just a piece of toast, in the morning? There's a doc that I was just listening to the other day, and he's far more specific than I am when it comes to the amount of protein that you need to have in your body to repair itself. If you want to weigh 160 pounds, he was saying that to repair that system, you got to have 160 grams of protein to repair your body. Otherwise, your body's going to eat you. Now, I'm not totally convinced, but I know he's really close to that. If you don't have enough protein, you don't have enough amino acids. The same thing goes along with this thing that we're talking about, mental clarity and adrenal exhaustion. If you're not putting in enough amino acids, i.e. protein, your body is going to slowly start depleting, and it's going to take what's available to put it into survival. You have to stay alive. It wants to keep your heart beating. It wants to keep your ability to at least move a little bit, to be able to answer baseline questions. But that quickness, that sharpness, that ability to think through a process is not going to be there for two reasons now. One, we're not giving it the challenge that we used to do when we were not working. So our mind's not going to work quite as quickly. And secondly, we're not giving it the fuel. How about the third piece? The third piece has to do with chronic pain patterns. If you're in pain, no matter what the pain is, you're causing a chronic inflammatory reaction, inflammation acid, right? And it's going to wear you down. That's your fight-flight system. That's your adrenal system. And you're going to deplete many of the different enzymes that you need to have to cause your body to cognitively go from point A to B to C to D in a succinct manner that you can put things together and say, oh, okay, I got it. How many of you have given up reading? I mean, really reading, not just scanning your iPhone and your iPads and so forth, but you're not reading anymore. You're listening to all the talking heads. When you're listening to talking heads, you're in a stress pattern. And all of a sudden, everything starts shifting. Your mood changes. You hear something on one side or the other, and you get upset about it. Do you think that's healthy for you? I can tell you it's not, because then your cortisol level is going to spike through the ceiling. You're going to end up with more problems than what you thought was possible. So when we're talking about the causes of fatigue and dementia, we're talking about, things, cognitive decline. Let's put that piece out there. You don't have the process. You can't hold on to things. You forget how to do tasks. It doesn't have to be Alzheimer's, my friends. It does not have to be. It can just be you're exhausted. You're exhausted because of pain. You're exhausted because you're not putting the right foods in your body. You're exhausted because you're not challenging the way that your mind works. So everyday activities that were once very simple that now require much more effort, and they add to that feeling of what? Fatigue. How about sleeping patterns? Now, sleep patterns, if you don't go into a deep sleep, you're draining your fight-flight system. You're draining your cortisol levels. So a lot of us, that have begun to experience some slowing of the mental cognitive processing, I can almost guarantee you they're not falling asleep quickly. They're not staying asleep. And their cycle of wake up and slow down has changed. So is that happening to you? If it is, it has to change. How about the physical stress patterns of anything? You know what physical stress is? Not being in the shape that you should be in for the age that you're in. I'm not telling you that you got to go to the gym and be this unbelievable weightlifter, but you could if you wanted to at any age that you wanted to do it. There's physical proof that that's possible. However, I'm talking about getting up and walking. I'm talking about doing some chair yoga. I'm talking about moving those joint spaces and raising your arms and so forth and getting it done and contracting those muscles every day, not on an occasion. I ask patients, I said, how often do you work out? And they'll say, I don't. I said, do you go for a walk? Occasionally. I said, how often is occasionally? Oh, when I think about it, I get up over, twice, 3 times a week. That's not enough. You have to challenge that body every day. And when you challenge that body every day, you're put in a good situation. Here's another piece, and I've seen this happen repetitively with elite athletes. I asked them a question. When you work out, and you work out to really increase your capacity and your ability, do you feel better after the workout, or do you feel exhausted? And they look and say, what are you talking about? When you're done working out, do you feel better? You might feel a little tired, or do you kind of feel wiped out? You want to take a nap? And many of them will tell me, I just, I want to go sit down and close my eyes for a few minutes. If that's the case, you've done too much. Your cortisol levels through the ceiling, and now it's crashing on the other side. You want to feel good afterwards. You want to put more protein in afterwards, not carbohydrates. Don't go drink something sweet. Put that protein in so you can stimulate the production of your microbiome in your gut, which is going to lead to all those amino acids and neurotransmitters that you need to fix your body. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you can do to help. How do you manage the stress patterns that lead to total exhaustion and dementia, right? Well, you have to make sure that you're sleeping the same time every night. Don't stay up and watch the stupid tube till 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning because you got nothing else to do. Get to bed and get up at the same time. Make sure that you have a black room, total blackness and coolness in your room. Your body has to reset itself, and it's one of the best ways of making that happen. There's study after study that shows that if you relax at night by knocking the lights down, getting rid of your phones, put them 6 to 8 feet away from you, turning off all of your incoming, your routers and everything else, shut them down. Don't want them in the bedroom. Drop your temperature in your room to 65 degrees. You say, oh my God, I'll freeze to death. No, you can stay warm, with blankets. If you're lucky enough to have somebody next to you, curl up next to them. You'll generate heat with each other. But seriously, you need to do that. You need to get that sleep in a normal cycle. And then if you say, well, I wake up in the middle of the night. Well, the reason that you wake up in the middle of the night, your body can't repair itself, and you're leading into this extreme exhaustive pattern is why? It's because you're spiking cortisol in the middle of the night because you don't have enough protein in your body. I tell patients, about an hour before you go to bed, go eat a little bit of leftover dinner. Go get a piece of meat. Go get a piece of chicken. Go get a hard-boiled egg. It's not going to put weight on, and eat it. Good meat, not a cupcake, not an ice cream bar, not any of that stuff. You need to have the protein, and you have to have enough of it so you can stay asleep during the night. That drops your cortisol. That gets it back. Those two things all by itself will drop your cortisol. And again, don't eat a ton of nuts, although that'll help you, right? Because there's usually too much salt in them because we're not cognitive enough to go out and buy the roasted, organic, unsalted nuts. We want the salt. Why do we want the salt? Do you remember what I've talked about over time? We want the salt because your adrenals are fatigued. So when the adrenal system is fatigued, you crave salt. You put salt on everything. Can't get enough of it. So be aware of that. And then we have to make sure that we're not in pain. If you're in pain, that constant stress of putting up with the pain and then the drugs that are on top of it cause your body not to be able to repair itself. And then that emotional stress and strain that's associated with it further depletes the memory banks and your ability to understand your cognitive patterns, right? So when we see these progressions, first of all, I don't want you to immediately go say, oh my God, I have Alzheimer's, I'm in the beginning stages of it and so forth. Maybe not so much. And then the next piece is, how many of you drink at nighttime? How many of you drink during the day? Do you know when you do that, you increase the degenerative process in your brain? Years ago, we said one and done. As soon as the cells were destroyed, you can't repair them. But science now has shown that you can repair the brain. You can repair the tissues of the brain, the cells of the brain, and so forth. And if that's true, well, first, quit destroying the damn thing. Get off that bottle of whiskey that you're on every night, or those 4 glasses of wine, or that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. But over 60% of all dementia problems have a vascular component to it, a blood supply component to it. And that has to do with straight up stressing your body with the wrong types of foods, stressing your body with emotional triggers. The stupid tube, things that you haven't resolved in your life. How about a little meditation and a little prayer? Calm your system down. I don't know about you, but what I do every day for myself is at nighttime, before I go to bed, I always have a conversation with a boss. And for me, it's something that I've done my entire life, and that kind of calms me. And I just go, okay, nothing I can do about it anyway, so let's just get a good sleep here. And in the morning when I wake up, I meditate and I look at my day and start all over again. I exercise immediately. But here's the deal. We have to look at the commonality of things that cause these problems to occur, right? If we don't look at the common things, then we're in trouble. Then we go to, oh my God, I have Alzheimer's. But is adrenal fatigue, you say, real thing? Patients come, I looked it up, and a lot of the medical literature says it's not so much. Well, I'm telling you that it's a real deal. When you feel that you can't think properly, when you're craving all kinds of salt, when you get enough sleep, you're staying in bed, but you're still exhausted, those are clues. So we've got to change something. We can't do it with drugs. We don't want to do it with another side effect of something that may be even worse than what we're dealing with right now. But we got to change our lifestyle. We've got to get that interesting cortisol weight off our midline. We all get a little bit of that if we're not outside doing what we're supposed to be doing. But adrenal fatigue goes back to about 1990 relative to finally accepting it in the medical community. And there was a couple guys out there. One guy, his name is Wilson. He was a PhD and naturopath, chiropractor, natural medicine guy, expert in alternative medicine. And he started to put together things that we've known forever in the world of applied kinesiology, which is the world that I deal with in integrative natural care. So when adrenal fatigue shows up, you end up with a lot of things that you can't figure out where they come with. One is chronic infections. They just don't go away. Your lungs don't work the way they're supposed to. You're constantly getting the flu, pneumonia, your respiratory pieces are there. You say, oh my God, that sounds like me. I've always got something going on. And then you go take the drugs and the vaccines and all that nonsense, the stupidity that's out there that you're being duped, my opinion, by the way. And there's a lot of evidence that suggests that that's what I'm talking about. Listen, guys, here's the deal. If your brain's not working the way it should, and it's not because of some blow to the head and injury pattern that happens, right? Remember, punch drunk type of thing, get the boxer in the ring or these MMA fighters, and pretty soon, their speech and their capacity is not what it used to be. Just saying. But if that's not the case, then what is the problem? Why do you feel wiped out? Why doesn't your memory work the way it's supposed to? Well, we're going to get into that, and I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can do right now to make a difference. But I want you to join me. I want you to join me at the Roselle Center for Healing on Wednesday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. And let's go through it. Let me show you what you can do very rapidly, very quickly. Let's talk about the different things that may be pushing you, if you will, into that dementia state that you could stop like now. And if you're retired, let's talk about what you can do to get yourself excited again. There's no reason that at any age that you should be sitting and watching the tube and have nothing else to look forward to. That's a slow roller coaster down to oblivion. So let's do what we need to do. Get some sleep, number one, on a regular basis. Get rid of all the cellular input. Start doing something that puts a smile on your face. Watch cartoon show better than sitting there and watching some of that stupid tube that you watch. But get out and walk. Get out and get interested in something. Donate your time to a charity. Donate your time, to something that you truly believe in. Don't get into this crazy stuff that everybody's getting into, that I hate you and you hate me, and just because you think a little differently. We're seeing pretty soon you're going to blow a circuit. You're not going to be able to to recover from that process. If your body's under stress biochemically, if your body's under stress emotionally, if your body's under stress physically, you ultimately will go into dementia. So if that's the case, here's what you need to do. Okay? Here's what you need to do. Get up and go for a walk. Go to bed at the same time every night. Those are the two things that you need to start with that are easy. Make sure you're getting enough protein during the day. It's not a piece of toast and jam in the morning to wake yourself up. It's not a cupcake in the afternoon because you had a mid-afternoon drop. That's another sign of cortisol drop in dementia, by the way. So, but eat protein. You can do it just like, a little bit here, a little bit there. Grab an egg, a little piece of meat, a whole bunch of nuts. Stay away from those fast-acting carbohydrates. Step one, right? Are you taking a vitamin B complex? We have 25 different laboratories that we use at the Roselle Center because not one of them are created equally, but they're all national laboratories, professional labs. Now, you need to be taking some B, you need to be taking some C, you need to be taking some D. You need to be taking a really good probiotic, natural one, every day. Keep your vitamin C levels up. If you know that you have an inflammatory reaction, then you need to do something more. What are you going to do more? Well, you take some quercetin. Quercetin is a natural anti-inflammatory. Will knock down all the, the thickening that you have around different cells in the body. How much should you take? Well, I personally take anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day. Stress the mind. And I'm not talking about just doing games. I'm talking about reading. I'm talking about, getting involved in something. I'm talking about challenging your body, put yourself in deadlines. Remember those deadlines you used to have when you were working or when you were, doing other things when you're doing now? Deadlines are important. They cause your body to move forward the way they're supposed to. What else can we do? No, we talked a little bit about movement. We talked a little bit about stressing your mind. How about physical activity? Let's go back to that. If you did nothing more than chair yoga, where you're sitting in the chair and you're moving your arms, but you're doing it every day on an ongoing basis, and you got a little hand weight in there, and get it done. Get that body moving. And if you have pain, make sure you come and see guys like me. If you don't know what to do, your dietary patterns, come and see people who do my work. If you'd like a referral, real simple, go to this website, go to drtomroselle.com, send me a note. We'll send you somebody that I would send my family to, not just somebody that I know, but somebody that I trust. This is doable, my friends. It's not something that you have to suffer with the rest of your life. We're coming up to the end of the program for today, but I want to make sure that you remember to join me on the 22nd, Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. at the Roselle Center for Healing in Fairfax. I'm going to get into very specifics. I'm going to talk about your pain and how it really causes that adrenal system to not work properly, and subsequently the inflammatory levels that cause your brain not to connect, or the loss of excitement in your life that causes your head not to work. All those stress patterns that cause the adrenal system to spike cortisol, and then pretty soon it's fatigue, can't do it anymore, will ultimately cause you not to have the edge that you used to have, not to be able to remember the way you used to. And I'll give you one more interesting piece. If you notice that you're slipping a little bit and your mind can't focus the way it used to focus, get online and download some Baroque music, Baroque, Baroque music. Why Baroque music? It has the same rhythm of a normal brain function. So you listen to it very lowly in the background, very gently at a low level, and you do something that's going to stimulate your body's ability to, or your mind's ability to function at a normal level. Read something that's more difficult. Try to learn something. And you'll find with that in the back of your head, it'll begin to reformat, reorientate, re-imprint. It does work. I promise you it does work. Having said that, remember, I'm here bringing you the pieces of the information that I know that you have to change your life, to do things the right way, for one reason only. You deserve the data, the truth. But I love you all. You have a great day. See you soon.